All right. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome back to First Fridays. For some of you in the chat, you can't even believe that it's already the first Friday again. Us too, us too. It comes by fast, and we're just excited for you all to join us and to lean in and learn a little bit more about AI and what this means for communicators. So thank you all so much for joining. I'm Allison Michaels. I'm joined by some great partners here today from Microsoft, and we have a couple of announcements and things that we wanted to share that are just really hopefully important for you all as communicators. And then I'm going to pass it off and kind of stay quiet in the background, and we'll help manage chat and of course Q&A. If you have questions as we go along, feel free to use the Q&A in the Teams webinar as well, just to help us kind of keep track of things. So before we get too far off, just wanted to just take a moment and celebrate. Today is Microsoft's 50th birthday, and many of us are celebrating wherever we are in the world, and we're super excited. So if you can, go ahead and hit an emoji of what you feel like. If you are 50, or maybe you're not yet 50, it's a pretty exciting thing, lots and lots to celebrate. But one of the things that we really want all of you to kind of think about, and you guys are definitely the ones that are already probably thinking about this and what's to come next, is actually next week we are kicking off a Microsoft Skills Fest, and we definitely want you as communicators as a part of this. We're trying to break a world record, which feels really big and advantageous and just crazy for the Microsoft world. So we would love for you all to join. Laurel, if you wouldn't mind, would you just drop the link in the chat for people for how to join that and how to get more information of what that looks like? This is actually next week. I think it's on Tuesday, April 8th, for the 24-hour learning moment for AI. So lots of great content. And, if there's something that you hear today that you're like, I need to dig in, or I need to slow down and take notes and really understand what does this look like for me, there's a great opportunity for you to do so coming up. And we've got lots of opportunity for you to continue to learn more. The other thing that, and I saw it in the chat already, so some of you might be joining us, and for those of you who are not joining us, we would love for you to be there as well. But coming up really soon, actually our next First Friday, a bunch of us are actually going to be in person together in Las Vegas at the Microsoft 365 Community Conference. We actually this year have a dedicated track for corporate communications. So if this is something that's interesting to you, or if this is something that you, maybe your IT partners are already going and you want to tag along, we would love for you to be there. Here's just a couple of snapshot of just the types of content and conversations that we're going to be having. Our Microsoft partners will be there as well. And then, of course, we're going to be diving in deep beyond just AI, but lots of different ways to use different products kind of across the Microsoft 365 world as well. So we would love for you to be there. We will not be hosting First Friday in May because we will be in Vegas together, but we'll be back in June as well. And then last but not least, and then I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to our presenter today, is if you missed this kind of, I think we announced this last month, Laurel, didn't we? If you missed this, we've now got a landing page where these recordings are hosted. There's a blog. There's also just other resources for you to just keep and take and keep running with at your own organizations as well. So check out that Modern Employee Comms adoption site if you haven't already. All right, we have a few polls that we would love to kick off this conversation with before, and as we kind of kick off the polls, we're going to switch slides, and I'm going to let Darina kind of take it away. But the first poll, we would love for you to just, as we get started here, we'd love to know, where are you at with, what's your current level of expertise with AI and using AI in your daily work? So go ahead and just kind of share where you you at today? Maybe not where you want to be yet, but kind of just feel free to share where are you at today. And then if you, okay, lots of novice. I see lots of beginners, kind of, still learning a lot of different things, a lot of experimenting going on. I love experimenting. So I think that's great. All right, Laurel, do you want to post the next poll as well? And then we will go ahead and kick it off. I think we have one more poll. Okay, so if you're using AI in your work, what tools are you using? Just give us an idea of kind of where you're at with what tools you're using and what you're doing. And if you're using something that's not on that list, feel free to pop it in the chat as well. And oh yeah, you can only select one. We probably should have used that as a multiple choice as well. So many of you are probably using a multiple of tools. Feel free to pop that in the chat of the different tools that you're using today. All right, any other polls that we have, or is that it for now? And then when we come back and close, we have a really quick short survey. So as we're trying to think through of what are the next and upcoming topics, we would love your feedback as well. So don't leave early. We've got some really incredible things to share with you. All right, so I am going to pass it over, and I am super excited for you all to kind of hear the story and the journey and also see some really new examples. I was kind of blown away a couple of days ago when we did a first run of this, of just some new ways of how some of our comms teams are really experimenting and really thinking outside of the box with AI and what they're doing. So Darina, would you just take it away? Feel free to share your slides, introduce yourself. This is a very friendly group, and we're so excited that you're here and that you've taken time before the big celebration for the Microsoft party as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alison. I'm delighted to be here. I'm here in Dublin on our 50th anniversary. There are about 2,000 people about to have a party downstairs. I have my wristband on for afterwards. We're going to have a viewing party, so it's very exciting. So I'm delighted to be here today. So I look after communications for the Irish subsidiary, so purely focused on the Irish market. I'm on slide 1, right? Sorry, just double checking. Yeah. Okay, so good. So I look after communications for the Irish market, and then more recently, I am also looking after comms, external comms for Finland, which is interesting because I do not speak Finnish, but that's interesting how AI comes into play and it becomes a game changer. Yeah. Yeah, actually, it was never an issue. It never even was raised. Could it be a problem doing comms in Finland, not speaking Finnish? So, like most of you, when ChatGPT arrived in November 2022, I logged in and I was one of the first few people to try it out working in tech. And I think it started an existential journey for me. And, how is this going to affect my job? How is AI going to impact on communicators? Because it's right in our wheelhouse. AI has been around since the 50s, but actually generative AI, which is essentially creating new content from existing content, creating text and images from what you already have available. So it's very different and very useful for us. So it really made me think, how is this going to affect me? And it's something that I'm going to talk about a bit more. So we see AI, or generative AI, very much as a general purpose technology. And what that means is it's like electricity, it's like the printing press, which was invented in the 1440s. And at the time, there was a real reaction from a lot of religious organizations who looked at it as something really fearful. But actually, the printing press revolutionized access to information. It democratized information for everybody. And it meant that it created all of these different jobs, different industries, a new economy that we'd never anticipated before. And AI, we believe, will do the same thing. It's going to democratize intelligence. It's putting the intelligence into the hands of everybody, removing those burdensome tasks. And, I really feel that myself now doing the Finnish role, because it's now given it's a role that I wouldn't have conceived before AI. I'm now able to use AI translation services in Teams. I was doing supporting with speeches where I was able to have Teams in front of me and I had live translation and I could actually input and give feedback on it, which was amazing. So one of the things I used to view my job, definitely before AI, I used to view my job very much. I used to call myself an air traffic controller because I just felt like I was in between the agency, our PR agency, and the business, and I was just farming tasks and not really going deep on anything and just busy all the time. And I think my role has really changed in the last few years. And I really feel like I'm falling in love with my job again. And it's just completely different. And one of the things that, when we think about, AI and how it's going to impact on communicators. And I think what's really interesting, recently I was talking to a company called Novartis, and they were rolling out Copilot globally, and they said, I was asking, who are the early adopters within your organization? And they said it's people like you, it's the support functions, it's HR, finance, legal, and and then I also was, looking at some research from LinkedIn about how creative people, the people who probably most fearful of AI, are actually uploading AI skills more on LinkedIn than anybody else. So really what I thought about was like, this is an opportunity for comms people to trailblaze. I normally see comms as a support function within an organization, but not as leaders. But now we can actually trailblaze. And this is an opportunity. And when we think about, so many like Gen Z, younger generations are, intuitively use technology, I suppose this is an opportunity for us to really get on top of this and trailblaze within our organizations and be leaders and be strategic advisors. But I suppose the thing that I do try to remember as well, because when you are using Copilot or AI, it is a support. It's not autopilot. You have to check everything, and you're bringing the value, you're bringing your instinct, you're bringing that creative X factor that that you can't always explain. It's your lived experience, and I think that's so important to remember the value that you bring and to not get sidetracked and just see it as an assistant, which is the way I see Copilot. And I talk to, you'll see my prompts when I talk. It's very much how I talk to it. So in a polite way though. So moving on. So I was talking about that whole air traffic controller thing. And when we did this, Microsoft did a survey with communications people across the globe, and they all said the same thing, that they had this overload, that they were just too busy, all of this kind of thing. And I then had some journalists in Microsoft, and we were showcasing Copilot and how they could potentially use Copilot. And they really challenged us and said, how can you be credible if you're not reading your emails? And, how can you really how can you work this way? Surely you have to, you're using Copilot too much. And it made me realize something, that they were talking about a way of working that was different to how I was working, and how we had moved on. And I didn't get as many emails as I used to. And when I think about it, I really don't, because most people are going to the same meetings. You don't need to send follow-up emails. They all have access to all of the actions afterwards. It's not necessary to send the emails that you used to send. And when we think about the workplace, in the 1950s, the workplace was designed, and it really hasn't changed much at all. It's the office and meetings, and that was what was set up in the 1950s. And I suppose when you challenge that and you think about during the pandemic, we moved to hybrid working, which kind of created this new dimension of work, this second dimension where people were working from home or working anywhere. And now we have moved to what we call this third dimension, where we have intelligence to support us. So that's what I mean about how I actually feel the change. And when it was only when they were talking, I realized we were talking about different things. So this is all about moving from the drudgery to the creativity, to move from the spending tons of time in emails to doing the work, the administrative work that you don't want to do, and moving to the creativity, moving to the high value work. So I'm spending more time on strategic work, on developing strategy, on supporting spokespeople, on advising, and that's the stuff that I really enjoy. I'm not an amazing administrator, so that's why I got on board with it straight away, because I feel like I get so much value out of it. So Copilot is Microsoft's offering, which I've mentioned. So it's not Autopilot. So I can see from the polls, and I was really keen to do the polls to see, what people were using, because I'm actually going to be using the enterprise version of Copilot. That's what I use, and that's what I'm showing in the demos, because that's what I have access to. And all of the demos that I'm going to show you are things that I just record them myself as. And that's actually how I'm working. So we do have a free version, but I'm not showing it now today. But it's great. I can see loads of people are using enterprise versions. So it means, obviously, that means that the searches that you do are grounded in your company data, and means you have access to a certain amount of data. For me, I work in global comms, so I have access to data potentially, say, from comms people in Redmond, in Seattle, across EMEA. So it's brilliant, because then when I'm doing searches, I can search across everything. And I can also I tend to search in M365. So I tend to do a search across all of the applications like Teams and SharePoint, emails, everything. So moving on. Slow. So, and one of the other things I wanted to know, and I can see that from the poll, that a lot of you aren't probably as comfortable prompting. So I want to explain how I prompt, because it's really interesting with AI, because people use it very similar to search, and it's quite different. And they talk to Copilot like they would talk to Google search, or just search engines in general. So essentially, what you really need to think about when you're prompting, it is all about the prompt and what you're asking for and how you ask it. So there's different types of prompting, and I call them like your pre-canned prompts. So there's a website, you can see the link below, and I'll share it again at the end. And thank you. So at the end, I'll share the link, and on that website, you're going to find loads of suggested prompts, and there are prompts for comms people as well. But these are the most common prompts, like recapping meetings, summarizing emails, drafting emails, summarizing documents. So I don't tend to use the pre-canned prompts as much. I like to create my own. I like to create iterative prompts, and I'm going to show you the difference. So this is what I call a pre-canned prompt. So this is one I've taken from somebody, copied and pasted, and I put it into Copilot, and I say, summarize my day and do it in a table. That's effectively in the actions that I need. And that's it. Going into my emails, you can see at the left, it's emails that's coming from Teams. These are all the things that I need to do, or I need to think about. Now, you're going to have to go into your email, of course, but this gives you an initial summary that you can scan through before. Say if you've got absolutely tons of stuff to go through, it gives you a quick summary before you kind of start. Then I did this yesterday. So yesterday I did media training with our GM in Finland, and at the end of it, we had the recap of the meeting. So there's a recap summary that's there, and that's kind of handy if you just want to send out a recap to say this had happened. But actually, I wanted to be able to, work with the trainer and send back a document that shared kind of actionable feedback for our GM and say, look, these are the insights, these are the learnings. So if you're looking for something, the recap, it won't give you that. I wanted something specific. So I went back into the recap and I went to the transcript and I asked Copilot, go, look for the actionable feedback, include what she does well, what she needs to work on, create a version of the narrative she wants to develop, i.e. based on X, Y, and Z topics that she discussed. And I listed out the topics. Weave in the trainers and my specific feedback, list out what we said, such as, providing more examples and soundbite, include specific sections or segues, reactive lines to the tough questions on whatever the issues were, and then pull out the list of the ways in which Microsoft thinks about managing risks, what we can do, and so some guidelines. So actually, I created a really nice document that we just had to edit a little and send it back. That's really time-consuming stuff, and it's definitely not the stuff that I tend to enjoy. I much prefer editing back what's there than having to create that from scratch. So, and then we're able to send it back really quickly, and so that means that she's getting the feedback quicker. So this is a demo to kind of show. This is so I what I did here was there's the Oireachtas in Ireland, which is essentially our parliament, right? And so Microsoft, Amazon, and Google were asked to present at this Oireachtas committee. But the previous 2 weeks before, Accenture, PwC, and EY had been asked to present on the same topic as the impact of AI on businesses in Ireland. And they were obviously, it's the same committee, they're all politicians, they're going to be asking the same kinds of questions. They come from a specific political party, they have certain things that they want covered. So I knew that they were going to be looking for the same stuff. I'd already listened to the recording. So, 3 hours long recording. But then I really would like to pull out the questions that each of those members on that committee asked and give me a summary of them. Now, I won't lie to you. I did have to go back a few times going, no, I'm looking for this. I want to know the themes that they're asking. So I must have asked it like 6 or 7 times and got more specific, and then it just came back with exactly what I wanted. And you know what, like I would never have had time to do that myself because that would have taken me hours. I'd already spent time listening to it all. I wouldn't have been able to have the time to pull that together. So I would have just given the spokespeople that were going in a sense of it. I wouldn't have been able to go in and take out all that detail because I just wouldn't have had the time. So that's a value add that I wouldn't normally have. In terms of speeches, and a lot of people, I know that people use Copilot for speech writing. For me, I don't like to I don't like to get it to do fully scripted speeches. I have tried that and I find you're kind of pulling back from something and I find it very difficult. I prefer to create structure, ask Copilot to help me create a structure. And what's really useful is, say you've got a complex topic and you want to create a speech around that, you can go in and you can say, what are all the areas within this topic? And it'll come back with a really comprehensive overview for you. And what's great about that is it reminds you of, oh God, I better not forget to include that and that. So I like to use it that way rather than, ask it to challenge me when I've developed out something and to challenge that, but I don't like it to fully script out. I find it's kind of a very hard way of working then in terms of editing back. Then again, scrutinizing and challenging myself around Q&As. I'll ask, Copilot, what did you think of that? Is that a good response to that question? So here's me asking. Now, sometimes it will say no. I don't like that when it does it, but it does. It'll say, well, it could be, but no, it could be better, and it'll go in. And but what the beauty of it is, it'll go in and it'll say, and you can see me highlighting some of these figures. It'll go in and it'll highlight a document, or so it'll make a suggestion. Okay, you can improve this here, but it'll highlight where that document is, and then I can click on that and I can find the source of it as well. So then I can verify, okay, is this really good content for me to add as part of this response or not? So so it means I can stand over it because I can access the original, but it can find stuff for me which I would never be able to find. And I think that's what's the key, because I obviously work for possibly one of the biggest organizations in the world, and finding information it's hard, and getting that information quickly and knowing where to find it and verifying it is beyond useful. So the social media post inspiration is something, it's particularly handy if you're really busy, you haven't briefed anybody properly, your agency, you realize, oh my God, I have to pull something together. And you can kind of say, draft for example, a LinkedIn post in today's news about something. And this is just me. That's all I did. That was my prompt. I threw that into 365. It pulled something from my email about the news. Now, I did have to edit it back, but I was under pressure. I didn't have time to get anybody to support me on it. I didn't have time to brief anybody. I just needed something really quickly. And then I was able to edit it back. So that was helpful. And I do that a bit. The blank, oh, sorry, that's me typing. I'll put that on mute. Apologies. So this is where I use the press. So this is the blank page problem, right? And you have to draft something, like a press release. And what I did was here is, you can see this is me putting my prompt in. So I'm saying use a press release or draft a press release from a template similar to one I'd done previously, or we had previously, and populate it with the content. So this is around our new GM announcement. So populate it with the content from that, from the new GM's biography, and pull it together. And what Copilot did was it pulls content together into the format that I want, that I'd used before, and the format of a press release and what I needed. And then you just use the content that was within the biography. Now, I did go back, and this is really important to remember this. I did go back and I checked every data point. I checked everything to make sure that it was all accurate. And don't forget to do that. You have to do that. You have to check and double check. So the beauty of it is it brings the information in for you and it helps you, but you still have to do the work to bring that beautiful tone of voice, the nice phraseology or nice phrasing that to the press release. But it started it for me, and it just meant then all I had to do was edit and kind of make it better. So that was so much better and so much easier. In terms of comms plans, this is a kind of comms plan on a page for internal and external. And one of the things I thought this was interesting, where I asked Copilot, is this a good comms plan? Could this be better? And can you make suggestions, kind of thing? And it came back with some suggestions and shared a comms plan for somebody in Redmond, and I was able to click on that. And I got some ideas from their comms plan that I was able to add in. So I thought that was great, something I hadn't thought of. In terms of crisis communication, so this is obviously if anybody is dealing with crisis communications, I find the most challenging thing is the noise coming at me and people looking for updates. So one of the things that I was doing during a crisis one day was every kind of half an hour, just for my sanity, I was going, summarize my emails and Teams chats from related to this specific crisis over the last 30 minutes. And it was pulling it back in for me, okay, this is stuff you need to do, which I found really, really useful. Just helped, me manage my day. And then at the end of the day, I said, are there any outstanding actions in the last 24 hours? Is there anything I've missed or haven't dealt with? And then it pulls together another list. So it's similar to the summarize my emails, but I was kind of doing that just just to check, and particularly at the end of the day, because I thought I had done everything, and actually there were things that I hadn't done and I'd missed. So then another example in terms of crisis communications. So there's this locked shields exercise. It's a global exercise. NATO organizes it. Ireland entered for the first time last year, and Microsoft was supporting the National Cybersecurity Centre with their submission. So it's this kind of simulated exercise, a nation state attack exercise, and it's really real. Like it's they have their own like Facebook type sites. It's really intense. So what we did was we put Copilot into a tenant, which meant that all of we put the materials into a Copilot tenant, which meant all of the materials from the exercise, we could do searches against that. And like the exercise is really extensive, so there was a huge amount of material. So anyway, we were doing all these searches, pulling back, strategic comms, documents throughout the day. And it just meant that we were producing materials really quickly in a high pressured situation. And actually, Ireland came out joined first, and it was really for comms, the comms. And that was really, I think, due to having access to this tool, particularly under pressure. So this is a kind of an example of, and it's kind of a little bit hard to explain, so I'll do my best here. So essentially, say you're looking for customer references all the time from, say, the business, or you want to be able to, say, reference what a customer is doing in marketing or comms material. And sometimes if you're dealing, say, with the sales teams, they want to be out with sellers. They don't want to be writing stuff for me. So, sometimes it's hard to find this stuff. So what I did was I went into Copilot, and I would have access to a lot of information within my emails and within my org. So I asked Copilot, so can you tell me how this customer is using AI in their business? And it basically brought back material that I didn't even know I had, that was embedded in emails I hadn't read, and was able to bring back, summaries. And I was like, okay, put this in a 2-paragraph summary. And what was lovely about it was I was able to put this all in one document, and then I was made it live. So all the sales teams were able to access it, and they were able to verify the accuracy. Now, one of them came back and said, where did you get this information? This is not usable. So I obviously took that out, but it's really been useful. So I now give this to the spokespeople. So it's a live document. I use it all the time. I give it to our spokespeople, and they can see what's referenceable and what isn't. The sales teams, I just put comments in. Can you make sure the customer has approved it? And that's what they do in the background. And it's worked really nicely. This is something that would take months for me to produce, with back and forths trying to get information. And I had something in a few hours that I could start to work off. So it was the beginning, when you go back to that blank page problem. So in terms of videos, this is, I find videos sometimes as well, you might have a recording, even if you're in the room, and you're like, well, what were the key points in that video? And say you want to share it, say on Viva Engage or something like that, you can go back and ask Copilot. So basically you can ask Copilot to kind of summarize what's in there, and then actually use it, say, for a Viva Engage post. Or, in this scenario, what I was doing here was I knew the speaker had said something about this piece of research that I was interested in. So I went into Copilot and I said, she said something about this. Can you find it? And it brought me to the exact point, and gave me the transcript as well. So then I could actually just copy and paste that and then used it for whatever I was doing. Really handy, really quick. So then this is another example of just purely, now this is a long one, so I've kind of left it towards the end. So I'm going to check I'm still okay on time. But basically what it is it's effectively using a press release to create a plan in PowerPoint. And I was actually just presenting to, we'd done a piece of work with PwC. I used the press release to ask Copilot to just develop out a comms plan for me, from the press release and then just populate it into a PowerPoint deck using the template from an event that I was at. And it goes straight into it. Now, I've been challenging the guys actually in terms of PowerPoint, and actually this was done actually a couple of months ago, so it's actually better than this now. But it just is just to show you how quickly you can take something from pure text in a press release, going through to an actual plan, developing out a plan. And what I did was I would have copied, okay, these are the headings for my plan. This is what I want you to cover. And then it brings it into this kind of here it's now bringing it into PowerPoint, and it's going to show you kind of what the preview is like. And actually now you can actually edit the preview and you can mess around with it before it now goes into PowerPoint. So it's even better now. So I'm going to move on. Well, will I wait for it to produce? It's coming. But anyway, look, it's yeah, there it is. It's coming. And so yeah, it's so all of those headings were what I had requested. So it's bringing it into all of kind of the headings that I needed, and now there it's in the deck. So there, that was just based on a press release. This is a Copilot agent. So I just set this up now yesterday. So this is kind of cool as well. And just to show you how easy it is to set up an agent. So all you do is you just go into Copilot, you click on Create Agent, and it brings up Copilot Studio, and it's asking me, what do I want to create? And I said, an assistant, you can see in there. And then I go, okay, Darina's assistant, that's the name of it. What do you want it to do? And so I'll say to it, okay, I wanted to write press releases, to just create plans, all of that kind of thing. So that's just me typing away there, not very quickly, hopefully. But anyway, it'll create plans. I'm asking it to create social media posts and all of that. And then it will ask me, do I want to ground it in data, specific data? And so what I then click on is that configure tab up there. When you click into the configure tab, you can go in and you can say, I wanted to use my SharePoint data, and it'll only use your you have access to you within in your profile. So it'll bring back all of that kind of content only that's relevant to you. So when I'm asking it to write a post, to do anything relating to comms, it'll produce that. So afterwards, what I did was once it was configured, it created the agent, I said, and so this is me grounding it in my SharePoint data. It's quite quick. And then afterwards, I just ask it, okay, to create a social media post. And it pretty much produces it straight away. And that's how quickly you can have an agent that is specific to comms, that's specific to your needs, and that's grounded in your data. It's not looking outside of that either, which might not be useful for you. And this one, I said, yeah, it should also be able to access the web. So I won't keep going with that because I know I'm running over time. I think this was shared at the previous session, but it's a great slide if you want to take a photo of it, but it gives you the steps in which AI is most useful and where you can almost move to automation, but also the areas where, as comms people, we're really going to have to invest our time and bring our value. And the areas that, AI will never probably be able to help us, but it's really useful to see all of that. So one thing I would say is, like I said, go be a trailblazer, because this is where you can stand out within your organization. Everybody is going to be using AI. So it's amazing for comms people to be leading out and be true advisors here. Experiment, pioneer, bring your own creativity, challenge yourself. It's going to make you even better at what you're doing. Don't forget, though, it is a a Copilot. It's not going to tell you how to do everything and you have to check everything. But get ready to trailblaze because it is really fun and I'm certainly enjoying my job a lot more. So I'll leave you with the prompt gallery link for the prompts. So hopefully that is helpful.
Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this, please give her a round of applause. I know it's so hard because we've auto muted you and we've disabled things, but I know for me, when we were walking through this, I know I already learned quite a handful of things and just some great nuggets. I know I was like leaning in, listening, kind of taking some notes of how I can use this literally tomorrow, or well, maybe not tomorrow because it's Saturday, but next week as we kind of think about this. So thank you so much. We have a few questions in the Q&A that I would love to just ask you about. And then for those of you who are just probably soaking in all the wisdom and all the different examples, I know we've shared a couple of, and hopefully some of them are new that you haven't really heard before. So if you do have questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A. So thank you so much for the question. So one of the questions is how do you get Copilot to create a PowerPoint using the org branded PowerPoint template, not the default one? Have you cracked that nut yet? I don't know if I know that answer. So, and it's okay if you don't know the answer. We can, yeah.
That demo was using PwC's template. That wasn't using the Microsoft one. I just used that as that was their template. So it actually used that PowerPoint. Now,
yep, you just have to have the template open. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you just have to upload the template. Yeah. Yeah, you just you can specify it that it uses the template and you put the link in, the / and then you put the link in to the actual file and they'll just use that.
Great.
Does that answer
Another
the question?
kind of similar question about kind of the branding and voice and style. It says, have you trained Copilot on Microsoft's brand voice writing style? And maybe kind of answer that because I know you had some really good examples about like your specific leader. And I think that is kind of like a good example of kind of maybe the Microsoft brand, but also like really specific, like you're having it in the tone of that leader as well. And kind of, at least starting from either existing content that you've already either co-authored or co-written with her, or yeah, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I might give it a link and say similar to kind of materials that we've used here or similar, and I'll give a link. So I'll just link to a document. I'll say similar to something like this. And then if the tone of voice isn't quite right, I do tend to say, can you make it more casual? Because I think the default is quite formal. But then casual can be too casual. But Microsoft's tone of voice is quite supposed to be simple. So I find saying, can you make it more casual, less formal? That tends to be fine for me. And then I just edit it a bit. So that works.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Someone is asking us if we're going to use Copilot to create a summary of this session and share it with the community. Of course, we will. We will post a link, but that CorpComms corporate comms community blog is kind of where we're keeping the recordings and sharing the follow-up and the presentation as well. So we'll kind of pull some of the nuggets and kind of pull some of this out. I also loved just like how you weren't creating from nothing, but like even the simplistic of the team's recap and how, we the meeting notes, that's, feels like a very, 101 level use case, but I love how you use that to create something from nothing, but not nothing, but you know what I mean? Like you were creating on top of something that was already created that would have taken you a lot of time. I loved that example. I'm definitely going to be thinking about how can I use those meeting recaps to help me as well. So thank you so much for that. Any other questions?
It's funny the way you say 101 because I feel that my prompts are really simple and so I'm not really using complex stuff. I'm just asking Copilot the way I would ask anybody for anything. And then I'd be, you just have to be specific. So and actually, I can see Frederick is responding with a better response than I gave, because he said you can create a personal tonality document you can use, or several for different people. So there you go. So definitely, I'm definitely not 101, but I know how to ask a question to get a response, I suppose.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Great. Thank you so much. Any other last kind of final parting words or parting questions? We're going to drop a link in the chat. So if you've joined us online, thank you all for attending. And we're just really glad that you're spending your Fridays with us. We'll be back in June, so stay tuned for the link via either LinkedIn or our customer communities or the blog as well to join us in June. I know a couple of you have kind of asked, can we go deep on agents? So that's maybe an idea that we do as well. But we have got a couple of other ideas, but we would love to hear from you about what you're curious about, what you want to learn about next, and kind of as we're thinking about things, what you could do as well. And we'd love to hear your feedback. So any last parting words? Darina, you want to share anything else? And then, yeah,
Well,
we'll
thank
go
you
ahead and
so
wrap.
much for the opportunity and for listening. And apologies, I couldn't see the questions, so I'm not sure. But hopefully, we've answered everything now. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Stay tuned for the recording. And it was so great to see all of you again. And thanks for celebrating and sharing with us your Friday, and happy birthday, Microsoft. All right, everyone. Take care. We'll see you in June.
Bye.
Bye-bye.